Welcome to the Misquamicut Beach Podcast, a podcast spotlighting the businesses, newsmakers, events, and memories of Rhode Island's historic Misquamicut Beach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Misquamicut Beach Podcast. I am your host and one of the producers of the show, Ben Barber. Today with me, we have the first of our new series that we're going to be doing, which is Memories of Misquamicut, and I am fortunate enough today to be joined by Mike Murray and Chris Walsh, who have many accolades that we can talk about at a later date, but today we are specifically talking about their time as DJs at Misquamicut Beach for the Atlantis nightclub. Is that correct?
Well, that's pretty close.
Okay.
Atlantis 2, the party paradise by the sea, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of other clubs down there, too, that we worked at, so
Awesome.
got to mention those.
So what time period was this? Not to date you guys, but...
Well, Mike, I think you should start off because you actually were a DJ before me.
So I came down with a bunch of friends in 1979 and saw this great club that was mobbed on the beach, and I said, I want to work there. So the next year, 1980, prior to the season, like in March or April, I tracked down Jimmy Caulfield, who was the manager at the time, and I would send him tapes or say hi to him, and finally I got a meeting with him face-to-face, and I said, I'm not going to wait for him to listen to any of my tapes. I actually brought a radio in and played a tape for him and described, now this is one song, it's mixing into another song. In fact, that's the early days of beat mixing. And in the office, we had talked for about an hour, and he said, can you come back next weekend and work? And I was like, yeah, I did it, and it was great. And Mike Magellan was the other DJ here.
Mike Michelli, yes.
Michelli?
Mike Michelli, yes. Yeah, he's actually, he does some stuff still in radio in the area. Yeah. I'm not sure. I heard him on the air, and I don't remember what station it was. But
all right, well, I'll look that up as we go along and fact check you. So, Chris, how did you get your start?
Well, I actually was working back at around that same time at a hamburger joint right next door to the Atlantis. And I used to hear the music playing over there. My brother Mike ran the hamburger joint. He rented out the place, and then, he ran that joint next door. Wow. It was a fun little hangout, hamburgers and hot dogs and all sorts of great beach food. But I'd stand on the patio of this hamburger joint and hear that music on a Sunday afternoon next door and wonder, why are there so many people over there dancing on a Sunday afternoon? So I used to go in there and peek in the window, and Mike was DJing. And I'll never forget when I heard him mix one song into the other. He was playing a song that I really, really liked. Then all of a sudden, it was into the other song, and I didn't realize what happened. And I thought, and the crowd went crazy. And I was like, what the heck just happened? How did he do that? And I started learning that he was mixing records, and the crowd was loving it. And I became infatuated with it. I said, I have to really know how to do this. So I used to just hang out there. I ended up getting a job as a doorman.
You were?
I was working at the door, and I was skinny. I didn't belong being a doorman, but
everybody else was buff.
They were all monster, big bodybuilders, and skinny me. But I remember working at the front door, which was right by the DJ booth, so I could always open the door and talk to Mike and ask him a question about the song he's playing and how he mixed it and so on. He taught me about what he would call 32s. Every song has 32 beats in a verse. So I became really interested in just the art of mixing records in a nightclub.
Yeah, beat mixing is a science. It's definitely, you gotta know. It's not just. I assume that a lot of it is feeling it. Once you know what you're looking for, but if you don't know the numbers and what you're looking for, then it's going to be a sloppy mess.
It's true, and knowing when to mix. The songs usually have a good nice intro, and then it goes through the song, and then there'll be a break, and you might want to mix in that break, or you might want to mix in the last break. So feeling the crowd and learning exactly what to do, when to do it, is really important.
And the cool thing, I guess now it's nostalgically cool, is what we used to use records. And and I'm sounding like an old dude, but the kids nowadays, they have all these tools that they just, they have everything. It tells them what beat per minute is. We used to have to take a watch and count it, what beat per minute it is. And we take a pitch pipe and determine what key it was. And we'd write it on top of the album. The album cover, it's 110 beats a minute and the key of C or whatever.
And that's important because if you're mixing a key of C into another key of C, it's a beautiful combination, and people just don't know what's hitting them. And there's nothing better than, and you did a good job because when they would scream, you knew that
Exactly.
it was, you'd get a scream. You'd go in from one song and the crowd would just scream and go crazy. It was intoxicating to see that. I have to tell you the truth.
Absolutely was. And being in control of that. At any moment you could slow it down if you wanted to, or you could make people run to the dance floor. And many times we've all had them as DJs, and DJs still, to this day, you still hear it. We used to call them train wrecks, and I think that's terminology still there.
Oh, yeah.
Where you'd start the mix, and then it would go off beat or something, and all of a sudden it goes, and people, and we used to describe it as people tripping on the dance floor, killing themselves, trying to get off the dance floor.
Well, bad mix is noticeable.
Yeah.
Good mixes aren't noticeable. Bad mixes, and a lot of times if I would do a bad mix, I usually would hand him the headphones and duck down so that everyone would look up and see him standing there. So
Many times.
So, even a nightclub being in Misquamicut seems like a little bit of a different feel from the family-friendly Misquamicut Beach of today. So can you just give me a little bit of what were nights like in the 80s on the beach? You don't have to tell me where the bodies are buried or anything, but the look of trepidation in both of your faces by this question,
honestly,
lets me know that there's some really good stories here.
There really is. There were 3 nightclubs back then, right together. They were all the same ownership, I think.
the Atlantis,
The Blue Sands and the Wreck.
and the Wreck.
And all had entertainment, and it was just a place to go. I mean, I know I used to work during the week as a DJ up in Springfield and Enfield, Connecticut area up north, and saying to people, "I'll see you on the weekend. I'll see you Sunday at the Atlantis or whatever," and they're like, "Yeah." I mean, people just came from all over the place to come to this location. It was amazing.
And it was a little crazier back then, definitely a little crazier. I remember there used to be a paddy wagon just parked in the middle of Atlantic Ave, and they would fill that up.
A couple times a night.
Yeah, a couple times a night, and when it filled up, they'd take it off to the jail, and they'd come back and park it there again, and people would just get thrown in there. It was a crazy place. I didn't start going to the beach area until I was probably 17 or 18 because my mother just didn't want me down there because it was kind of a crazy place. So, I mean, I didn't get to experience that when I was really young, but when I was 17 or 18, I saw there was a lot of craziness going on down there for sure.
It was definitely the place to be. And with the drinking and the drugs back in the 80s, it was crazy. And unfortunately, that's what led to the parking lots that you see now there, underlying the drugs.
Yeah. So where were where was the Atlantis?
The Atlantis was right pretty much across the street from the Misquamicut information booth. It was across the street, and in that whole area, the Blue Sands was in that area. Well, I believe the Blue Sands is where the drive-in is right now.
Okay.
And then right next to across the street was the Atlantis, and next to that was the Wreck, which ended up being, when I tried to get into the Atlantis and I wanted to work, I ended up getting pushed into the Wreck and had to play rock and roll as a DJ at the Wreck.
Try to mix it.
And I tried, you can't mix rock and roll that well, so I had a different kind of a crowd over there, and I wanted to go where his crowd was because that's where all the cool people were. I was with the bikers, but it was fun. I had a great time.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say, it was a lot of fun. But occasionally I would get to play a dancey type record. So I would go, we'd write notes to each other next to, hey, I want to borrow this record. And occasionally he would even play a rock and roll song and borrow one of my records. So it was kind of fun.
And he always sent over a really pretty girl to deliver the record. Thanks.
That's not true. Well, a little bit.
So, how many people are we talking would be in one of these clubs on any given night?
It seemed like it was always jammed to me.
I think the place probably legally held maybe 400, and without the fire marshal being at the front door, I'm guessing more than that. I mean, 500.
Yeah, I mean,
jam packed. For you to get from from the bathroom, which was way in the back, to the front, which I'll call the front, the beach, to the beach.
It would take you a while.
like 20 minutes.
There was definitely some laws being broken with attendance.
I think the statute of limitations. They're gone.
Yeah, I can say that now.
Yeah.
I
They're
can say
parking
that.
lots, so I guess we can.
Oh yeah, no, there was definitely as far as attendance. I don't know how they got away with that many people.
Yeah. That's surprising considering that there was a police officer parked outside.
And a line going out the door, going down the staircase. It used to
yeah.
climb up the staircase to get into the Atlantis, because there was a downstairs as well. There was kind of a quieter
restaurant
type bar with some food and
Yeah.
So
And the sea shanty too was on the other side of the wreck. I think that's not
the sea shanty was on the other side.
Anymore,
It's not there either. No, it's all parking lot now.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, and of course the drive-in, which is a huge part of current day Misquamicut Beach.
Yeah.
So what, what is the one specific craziest memory that every time somebody says, "Hey, remember the '80s in Misquamicut at the nightclubs"? What's the one thing that you're like, "Oh, this was crazy," if you can tell it?
Well, I can say, probably the funnest time to work at the Atlantis would have been Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely.
Would you say?
Absolutely.
I don't think it gets any
Oh,
crazy.
that's surprising to me.
Sunday afternoon, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people have been having a couple of drinks on the beach, and there's something about the sun and liquor that just does something to people, I think.
Absolutely. I think it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock. We would turn the speakers that we had mounted on the deck of the Atlantis, pointing out at the beach, and we crank it up, and we get on the microphone and say, "All right, everybody, the sun is going down. Come on in." And within half an hour, 45 minutes, you have a full dance floor, bar, people just in bikinis and bathing suits,
oiled bodies.
We used to fight on who would work Sunday afternoon. That was the best day of the week to work.
It was by far the best. It was definitely the best.
I mean, you could have played, and I think we did play Frank Sinatra, and they'd still dance. Not that Frank Sinatra's bad, but I'm just saying, in a dance club, it's not, the best.
They just seemed to get into everything.
Yeah, no matter what you did, it was just amazing. And it was a DJ's dream. And I know other DJs from clubs would come down, on a Sunday afternoon. "Man, you got it made here. Look at that, whatever. It was great. It was great.
And Jimmy Caulfield, I got to give him credit. He really knew what he was doing down there at the time.
Absolutely.
He really got the best sound system. I remember the speakers, clips
Yep.
speakers that were just ridiculously beautifully sounding.
Best sound system I ever worked on.
Yeah, it was just crisp and clean, and the light show above the dance floor was just
State of the art back then. Now it's whatever.
But back then it was fantastic.
Stainless steel dance floor. Different
multi-level dance floor. It was like different levels.
The floor was actually stainless steel.
And it was sunken.
Yeah.
So you'd go down on the dance floor, but you'd go up on a level, and it was fantastic.
So cool.
All right, this entire show is just making me sad that I'm not able to experience this, or at least just go in and see it as it was. How long were you there? Both of you individually.
I started 1980, and I think to 89, I got married and worked less and less.
Yeah, I was pretty much the same. I think I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Me too. He started a little bit before me, but I kind of hopped in and did I did not only the Atlantis, but the Wreck, and then across the street there was a near probably the mid 80s. I don't remember exactly. Maybe the mid to late 80s. They had a kids club called the LA Beach Club.
It was the Blue
Do you remember
Sands.
that?
No, no. I was
You
born
look
in
like, yeah, I used to go there.
I was born in '87. I'm just.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God.
All right. Hey, I'm 30. Don't.
That's painful.
But a kids club. So what is like an all ages
club, but where you can go in there and you just dance the night
just
away.
Same exact thing, but
Sodas,
no alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. Same exact thing. And it was jammed. It was packed. It was fantastic. Had such a great time there. Worked for Jimmy's brother at the time. Jimmy's brother used to run that place, Johnny Caulfield, and it was just a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Nothing better than having a crowd that appreciates music and gets into it, and It was just fantastic.
Awesome. What was it like when? So how far after do you know? How far after you guys left, which was both around the turn of the decade into the 90s? How long was it until those places shut down?
I don't know. It kind of caught me by surprise because you went back to Connecticut.
Right.
I moved to Connecticut because it was because of the DJing that we did down here. We ended up having a career that brought us into radio after that for many, many years. So I think it snuck up on us down here. I remember every time I'd come back to Westerly, I'd come back once every couple of weeks to visit the family. Something always changed in Westerly. They put up a building here, they tore down a building there. But I never really followed what was going on down the beach. And I remember the last time I went to the Atlantis, it was kind of quiet. It had changed quite a bit. It wasn't packed on a Saturday night. And the next year, I heard that it got torn down. And I went down there and I saw, some scraps of wood. And I grabbed a piece of wood with some blue on it, and I took it home.
That's
I still have it at home. It's just a broken piece of wood, but I knew it was from the Atlantis. And it held a piece of my heart. As queer as that is, it's down my cellar right now. So I forget what the question was.
Oh, that's okay. You answered it. Mike, what about you? What was your last, sort of memories about the Atlantis and the rest of the clubs?
I think the last thing I can remember is, I believe it was Labor Day that I worked and DJ that Labor Day. It was like a Sunday, but it was a holiday, and the whole same thing. People came in off the beach and whatnot, and it was packed. And I remember staying down here and waking up the next day and driving down the beach, and there was people putting plywood up on the windows and of different businesses along Atlantic Avenue, and it was sad. It was like, I remember Mark Sullivan writing a little short story about the day after Labor Day and talking about tumbleweeds going down Atlantic Avenue and things like that. That's how it really is. The summer is over, boom, period. And that's how I remember it. And then a few years down the road, I remember Chris telling me that they're bulldozing the buildings down. I'm like, what? It blew my mind.
Did the club stay open year round back then?
No.
No, but the rec actually did. The rec stayed open in the winter, and it stayed active in the winter. I can remember Wednesday nights at the rec was beat the clock night. From 8 to 9, drinks are 25 cents. From 9 to 10, they're 50 cents. From 10 to 11, they're 75 cents. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Oh my goodness!
Come on down,
did you have to give that spiel?
Bring your car.
Or did you have to over the microphone?
Yes.
Yes, we'd have to talk about it. I was more. I DJ'd near the end of that whole craziness as well too. I went down there as a customer most of the time. That was going
Trying
on.
to beat the clock.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like a $4 admission, and then you'd get those drink specials. But it was crazy.
You don't hear that anymore, do you?
No, you can't. I don't even think that's legal anymore.
No.
All right, so the DJing at the clubs obviously got your foot in the door to DJing and to careers in this field. So how did that happen? What did you guys go on to do? I know you both went on to radio and syndication and stuff. So,
well, yeah. I mean, what ended up happening for me, I can remember. I got a job in Connecticut. Mikey was DJing different clubs. I was DJing different clubs, and I happened to be working in a club in East Hartford, Connecticut at the time called El Torito. It was a Mexican restaurant, but it had a really beautiful little dance club on one side. It was a great little club, and a new radio station just went on the air, and they had their Super Bowl party at El Torito back in 1986, I believe, 85 or 86. And the Patriots were in the Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl, playing the
Chicago Bears.
And this new radio station was coming into my club and having a Super Bowl party there. And I remember trying to talk them into, the owner, Tim Montgomery. I said, hey, you guys have got to do a mix show on the air. They had a thing called the Kiss Club at the time, but they weren't mixing the records. And I said, turn it into a nightclub show. Yeah, they weren't sure of it. I did what Mike did. I remember making a tape, giving it to them. They never got back to me. Made another tape, gave it to them. They didn't get back to me. And one day I did the same thing you did. I sat on the couch at KISS and said, I'm not leaving until I speak to the owner. And the owner and the program director took me in the office and said, all right, we're going to give this a shot. And I remember, they said they're going to give me $50 a night. And I was making, like, at the time, $150 a night at the club that I was working in. So I had to make up my mind right then and there. What am I going to do? And I ended up dropping the club and going to the radio station because I knew that was going to be the better thing to do. And long story short is we did the show, and the show became I remember they called me into the radio station about 2 months after I started doing the show, and they said, we just want to let you know that your KISS Club is the number one ranked show on our radio station. They said, you're number one, and I didn't know anything about ratings. They said, you're number one with women 18 to 34. And I said, well, that's great. I don't know what that means. That was their target audience that they wanted to reach. They ended up changing the format of the station to go around to turn it more dancey because it was so successful. And we finally competed with and eventually beat our rival TIC, which no one thought that we could do. And we had some great program. I worked with Jefferson Ward was one of the program directors there. Fantastic guy. Just helped build that station up to what it is. And that ended up, the show became so successful that Mike, after all the things that he had done for me, getting me into this business, I said, hey, Mike, let's work together and do this show on a bigger scale. Maybe we can package this show up and sell it to other radio stations. So we got together and put our brains together and created a show called Super Mix. And tell them you took care of a lot of the business end of this whole thing.
Yeah, Super Mix. We started off with Japan. I don't know how we got it, but we got a station in Japan to take our show from us. And the hard thing about that was there was no internet back then. There was no CDs back then. We did everything on reel to reel, and it was a 4-hour mix show with local breaks for commercials and whatnot. But we would give them 4 10-inch reel to reels every week. And we'd send it out in the mail and hope it got there in time. And it just, it ended up working out great. And then from there, we hooked up with a company in New York that got our.
But even before that, we got one of our big breaks was when I remember getting the call from because we were pumping it out. We made our little flyers, little marketing
Super
things.
Mix.
And we ended up. I don't know if you remember this, but we ended up getting I got a call from Sonny Joe White in Boston.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we were on
right.
KISS 108 in Boston, which was like gold because once you get a market like that, you now
Top 10 market.
because we gave the show to them for free. We made our money by the advertising that went into the show. So
syndication works that way. The station will take a program that they can probably not get anywhere else, and it was really highly polished. Program mixing one song to another, and Chris did most of the production, and we would add advertising, national advertising. We had Clearasil and AT&T, all these big.
Give me a break.
Yeah,
Give
unbelievable.
We had, and then we ended up, and then another thing that freaked me out. It was exploding when we got the call from John Garabedian to come to his house.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know if you know who John Garabedian is, but he's a legend in
House Party
in the radio industry. He has a show called Open House Party. Been going for many, many years. I think he retired recently.
He did.
But he took us to his house, and he has an airport in the backyard where he flies in celebrities to do his show live from his house in his basement, I believe. And said he wants to be part. He wanted part of our show. He wanted to. He pretty much wanted to take it over. When we look back at it now.
Yeah.
But
it got us on so many other stations. We were on. And then we also got on Armed Forces Radio, which we were at some point we were at over 600 radio stations playing our mixes, and we broke them down into a top 40 mix, an urban mix.
It was crazy. It was just crazy
mix. Yeah, it was great.
That is an insane story.
And then what killed our syndication business was Colin Powell's son. I think it was Michael Powell, was the head of the FCC, and he said, "All right, companies can now own more than one radio station in each market, and then Clear Channel and a couple other corporations
that changed the whole texture of radio.
Bought all the stations in all the big markets and decided no more outside programming, and that's what we were, is outside programming.
Right.
And it just killed it.
Yeah. And now, I mean, that hurt the radio industry in many ways, because even on-air jocks are scarce. The station KISS that I used to work for, I believe they have a morning show, and that's it. Everything else is people that work for Clear Channel that have a studio in their basement, and they do the voice work for the show, and they just upload it to KISS, and it sounds like there's a live jock at the station, but there's not. And a lot of stations run that way now.
Takes out all the personality out of the radio stations.
Wow.
But anyway.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It really is.
Now, did you, I don't know if this was you guys together or Chris, just you, but I heard something about an MTV CD?
Yes.
An album?
Well, we did many. I did about like maybe 15 of them for MTV at the time, and that was kind of a funny story, because when you are in radio and you have a show like we had, record companies are constantly. I would spend half the day opening up records and having to listen to records and CDs.
Well, not to mention you were the music director at KISS too. But
I was also the music director at KISS, and that helped as well. But so we were kind of influential. If we play a song on our show, they're going to sell records. So they're constantly getting you to try it. They'll take you out to dinner. They've taken us to the Grammys. They've done everything to smooze us without giving us money, which is illegal and against the law. But they do everything but that. Dinners, flights to beautiful places. And so I remember the MTV Party to Go series came out, and MTV was really hot back then. They had a show called Club MTV, and they turned that into these CDs. And the CDs made money. Half of it went to charity. And I remember the first one came out, and it was horrible. It was really bad. I mean, because we talk about the art of beat mixing, and right. they had train wrecks. If you listen to Volume 1, Volume 2, they were at. So I remember calling the record company up, and I thought they were going to laugh at us and say, we'll take care of this. But he said, I'll tell you what, we have a couple of DJs that also said the same thing, and here are the songs for the next one. We want you to mix it and give it to us, and we're going to use whoever gives us the best mix. So I put it together, and I sent it to them, and I got a call one day saying, we're going to use your mix. We're going to use your mix. We want you to change a couple of things, because they ended up making it very difficult because they wanted certain songs to be at the beginning. They wanted some power records to be at the beginning, because people read the tracks. There's all sorts of, they read the tracks. They want to see a couple of hits up front and so on and so forth. So remix it the way they wanted to. And they came back like 15 or 16 times after that. And it was pretty, I have to say, it was money that I wasn't used to either at the time. Being young, getting a big fat check after doing those was kind of fun. Yeah. I really enjoyed the heck out of that. So that was fantastic. And the whole Grammy thing, they also got me, because they sent me to a couple of Grammys, that got me, I really wanted to go to the Grammys all the time. And I remember one year talking to a record guy saying, I really want to go to he goes, you're now... you're a remixer. You can apply for being a voting member of the Grammys. So I applied to be, all of a sudden I'm a voting member, and I can go to the Grammys anytime I want.
And is that still?
If I pay my dues, because when I got out of it, I started not paying attention to the music. So when I get the ballot in, I'd look at the ballot and I don't know what I'm voting for anymore.
Right.
It was just so I had to kind of sneak out of it. But I'm kind of interested in getting back into it again. So maybe someday I'll do it again, just to be able to go.
Wow. So we are almost at about time, which has just flown by. And this is a great story about how, some nightclubs in Misquamicut Beach led to you guys having a syndicated radio show in Japan and all around the country. And, being a voting member of the Grammys. Like, this is an insane story, and I wish that this show was like an hour and a half so that I could talk to you guys more about it. Would you guys want to come back sometime?
We'd do that, sure.
This is fun.
If anyone cares.
People are going to care. This is the best one yet. So, obviously, Chris, I know that you've been involved a lot, helping Caswell doing stuff for the NBA for a while.
Yeah.
All of the footage that anybody's ever seen for the NBA for the Spring Fest and Fall Fest commercials is shot by Chris. And we actually used, my partner and I used some of your footage once from Spring Fest to
I was going to talk to you
remix a
about that.
commercial.
You owe me a little bit of money?
It was for It was for the NBA.
Oh, okay, all right.
It wasn't for us. We didn't make any more money off of that. It was. We were like, Caswell wanted us to make a commercial for it. We were like, okay, we don't have any footage. We were like, oh, Chris has great footage of the rides and kids, and that's great. So what are you guys, quickly, this episode can be a little long. What are you guys up to now?
Well, we actually are both in the same career right now. We're doing video production. We do a lot and the editing of the music helps a lot in our editing videos together. We do a lot of weddings and corporate. Mike, say something. You're doing the talking here.
Yeah, come on, Mike.
Well, like you said, we do a lot of weddings, a lot of corporate work. Chris does a lot more corporate work with, making training tapes and product demonstrations and stuff like that. I'm just starting to get into, actually, at the end of this month, we're shooting a pilot for HDTV down in Waco, Texas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, Misquamicut got us all these gigs all along our life path. It's really, really awesome. And so that's where we're at now. And we both have production companies. Chris... So I think Chris gave me a payback. I brought him into the DJ industry, and he brought me back into the video industry. Although I did video way back in the day, but once the digital evolution came around, we said, "Come on back."
We do have more stories to tell because I was actually in video at the same time we were DJing back in Misquamicut. I worked at the cable TV station.
Oh, yeah,
we used to do a lot of mischievous things back then as well. Where there was a camera that used to scroll across the time, the relative humidity. It was a camera. It just kind of moved back and forth, but showed you these meters on the wall. And I can remember it scrolling across, and I would stick my head in it every once in a while and tell everyone at this certain time to check it out. Yeah. Ended up getting me in a little trouble back then, but that's okay. We had a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I would love to have you guys back and talk about that. I think that we could have some great conversations about that.
Sure.
And as somebody who does audio and video and has my own production company and is starting in Misquamicut Beach, hopefully some of your luck rubs off.
I'm sure it will.
Is all I can say. So
no, I'm not saying I'm sure that the luck will rub off on you. You seem to know what you're doing. I like your equipment. I like the way you're running your podcast. It's awesome. I love listening to it.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you guys so much. Speaking of Misquamicut Beach, though, let me just get in a quick plug before we end. In about 3 weeks, it is time for Misquamicut Beach Spring Fest. 3 days of fun, May 11th, 12th, and 13th. Go to MisquamicutFestival.org for more information, but there's carnival rides, amusements, food trucks, kids' activities, and more. Friday night, John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band will be here. Saturday night, May 12th, Badfinger, starring Joey Molland, plus Phil Solem from the Rembrandts, which is, of course, is the band that made the Friends theme song. I'll be there for you. And Sunday, John York of the Byrds. So that's a pretty stacked lineup this spring.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Caswell always gets some good acts down there.
Hopefully, knock on wood, we reached out. Hopefully I'll be talking to some of those people on the podcast, which I'm very excited for.
Wow.
I grew up listening to Badfinger and the Byrds and stuff, which is... I know I'm 30 and you guys cringed at that earlier.
Wait a minute. We grew up listening to that.
I listened to, speaking of oldies radio, Mike Michelli that you guys talked about earlier. Yeah, he is on Cool AM in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So check that out,
Nice.
I guess. Well, we'll give him a plug.
Yeah, great guy.
Good guy.
All right, and is there like a website or anything that people can check you guys out at if they want to, hire you for video production or?
Well, we both have, ChrisPro.com is one, and Summerwind Wedding Films.
.com is another. Yeah.
Yeah, is another one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mine's going to be changed soon.
Mine too.
Newportfilms.com will eventually be mine because I'm trying to like market the Newport area. That's where all the rich weddings are. So
Absolutely.
So we want to, and Mike does a lot of work in Newport as well.
I have
Awesome.
an office there.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for making the schlep down to Misquamicut. It was a fantastic podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, it's great. Thanks.
Absolutely.
It was great to relive the memories.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thank you guys. And check out Springfest, May 11th through the 13th.
For more information on the events and businesses in Misquamicut Beach, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and at misquamicut.org.